the ambulance suddenly started shaking violently. Then a half-human, half-bird monster burst through the door. One of his arms had already turned into a wing. His body looked strong. He kicked 2 nurses away. Then he climbed onto the roof of the vehicle. Francois and his son Emile, who saw everything from the side, shivered in fear. Luckily, the Birdman only glanced at them before quickly running away. In the future world, a mysterious virus spread across the globe. Those infected gradually lost their human form. In the end, they fully transformed into animal. Not long ago, Emile's mother Lana was also infected. The father and son came to the shelter where Lana stayed. Emile noticed many claw marks on the wall. He believed his mother had already turned into an animal and lost her humanity, so he refused to talk to her. Lana silently turned back to look at Emile. The meeting ended in a hurry. The doctor said Lana's condition was basically stable, but since the number of patients kept rising, they would soon be transferred to a hospital in southern France. Francois wanted to visit his wife more easily, so he moved south with Emile ahead of time. Emile also changed to a new school. To avoid discrimination, he lied during self-introduction, saying his mother had already passed away. At that moment, Francois received a call from the police. They said the truck transporting patients had crashed. It had rushed down a slope into a lake. More than 40 mutant patients were killed or injured. Lana went missing. That night, Francois hung clothes outside, hoping Lana would find them by scent. Emile resisted, thinking his mother had already forgotten. The next day, Emile joined a tug-of-war at school. Although he usually looked weak, this time he actually beat 4 kids on the other side. He realized something was changing inside him. Before class even ended, he rushed back home. He used tweezers to pull an animal claw from under his broken nail. He knew he was infected too. Even his spine became more pronounced. A wave of sadness and helplessness overwhelmed him. He crouched in the bathtub, trying to wash away all signs of mutation. That night, he went to a class gathering. To fit in, Emile drank a lot of alcohol. He slipped and fell. The girls quickly gave him some sobering medicine, but Emile couldn't control himself and licked it with his tongue. The others laughed loudly at him. Embarrassed, Emile stood up. He accidentally burped. The sound drew a response from the beasts in the forest. It even sounded like his mother Lana's voice. Emile panicked and ran into the woods to search. The next day, he woke up by the river. His body was covered with wounds, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. He rushed home and washed the blood off. Suddenly, he pulled a feather from his throat. It was obvious he had eaten a bird raw last night. Francois took him back into the forest to search for Lana. Emile wanted to know what his father truly thought about Lana turning into an animal. Francois said, "She's still her. Nothing has changed." The answer shocked Emile. Francois had never cared about Lana's appearance. He always loved her. Even if she became a monster, their bond would never change. Emile wondered if one day he also turned into a monster and got lost in the forest. Would his father search for him the same way? Francois felt relieved this time. Emile did not resist finding Lana. Instead, he shouted, "Mom!" loudly again and again. They searched the forest all night. The next day, Emile got out of the car alone. He suddenly saw a child mutated into a chameleon climbing in the trees. While he was in shock, a birdman dropped from the sky, attacking Emile. The creature slashed his arm with sharp claws. The pain made Emile scream, but then the birdman realized Emile seemed like his own kind and stopped. Francois rushed over with a wooden stick, drove the birdman away, and took his injured son to safety. This experience made Emile realize that one day, he too might become an animal. He decided to adapt to the jungle in advance. Emile caught some fish from the river and returned to the place where he had seen the birdman. At that moment, the birdman was practicing flying. He fell again and again, his body full of wounds. Emile placed the fish in front of him. The birdman grabbed them and devoured them hungrily. Emile wanted to be his friend, but the birdman had even forgotten his own name, so Emile simply called him Fix. Emile took Fix to a quiet lake. He cleared the floating branches on the surface. This place could serve as a practice ground for flying. Seeing Emile's effort, Fix slowly lowered his guard. On his way home, Emile found it harder and harder to keep his balance. He simply threw his bike into the woods and walked home on foot. While Francois was working at the restaurant, he noticed the fridge in the backyard had been opened. Food was scattered all over the floor. When he tried to put things back, the coat rack behind him shook, as if something was hiding there. Francois thought it might be Lana, but just as he was about to get closer, a mutated human in the form of a walrus rushed out of the shadows, pinning him hard to the ground. At the critical moment, the restaurant's boss lady came to stop the walrus. It turned out that this mutant was her sister, who had been hidden in the restaurant all along. After that, Francois ran into the forest, shouting Lana's name. Sure enough, not far away, he saw Lana completely mutated into a bear, standing silently in place. When she saw Francois, Lana let out a low growl. But out of fear and shock, Francois instinctively took a step back. That one step completely shattered Lana's last hope. She realized her husband could no longer accept her and chose to leave. Francois regretted it deeply. At midnight, he returned to the forest to keep searching. Although he did not find Lana, he discovered Emil's abandoned bike in the bushes. Worried, Francois went home. While unclogging the bathroom sink, he found some animal claws wrapped in hair. Only then did he realize Emil might also be infected. When Emil came home, Francois showed him the claws and questioned him. Emil looked very nervous and refused to let him check. Francois then took out the bike, asking him to ride around, but Emil already knew he could no longer keep his balance. He avoided it again. Emil saw that Francois had already guessed his mutation. To stop his father from sending him to the shelter, he tried to escape, but Francois caught him in his arms. From then on, Francois didn't force Emil into treatment. Instead, he chose to help him hide the disease. He trimmed Emil's sharp teeth and nails every day, shaved his growing hair, and prepared earplugs to ease his sensitivity to sound. The father and son continued living in fear. Emil still visited Fix every day, but this time he found that Fix had forgotten how to speak. Emil gave him a comforting hug. The good news was, Fix had finally learned how to fly. Emil watched Fix soar in the sky and cheered for him happily. Fix called back in response. When Emil got home, Francois noticed his son hadn't trimmed his nails as promised. To stop him from being caught, Francois grabbed scissors to cut them right away, but Emil refused. Francois said, "If you get caught, it's over. Do you want to die alone?" Emil answered, "The one who will die alone is you." The two of them fought. Emil even bit his father's arm. After Emil calmed down, Francois realized that the choices he forced on his son might not have been what Emil truly wanted. He put the scissors down and let Emil decide for himself. Depressed, Emil went to a party. A girl named Nina, who had always liked him, took him to the cornfield to get intimate. There she saw the thick hair on his back and his protruding spine, but she said nothing because she had already guessed he was changing. Unfortunately, another boy secretly saw it. Later, when Emil went to the bathroom, the boy pulled out a device that emitted high-frequency sounds. Humans could barely hear it, but for animals, it was torture. Emil immediately covered his ears in pain. He soon lost control and attacked the boy. Panicked, Emil fled the party. A large group of police arrived quickly, wearing stilts, holding hunting rifles, searching the cornfield for the mutant Emil. Emil had no choice but to run toward the forest. It might be his only safe place. At that critical moment, Fix swooped down from the sky and attacked a hunter who was about to shoot Emil. Then, he flew ahead, guiding Emil to escape. But under the hunter's heavy pursuit, a bullet struck Fix. He fell in front of Emil's eyes. Emil searched desperately and finally found Fix, dying. Seeing Emil safe, Fix smiled faintly and closed his eyes forever. As Emil sank into grief and despair, the footsteps of the hunters grew closer. He had no choice but to leave Fix behind and keep running deeper into the forest. When the hunters found Fix's body, they stopped the chase. Emil settled in Fix's nest. When hungry, he ate wild fruit. When thirsty, he drank dew. During his time in the forest, his body changed more and more. He began to show the instincts of hunting birds. His movements grew sharper, and he knew that soon he would fully become a canine-like animal. When Emil started exploring the forest, he discovered a bear's footprint. Following the trail, he arrived at a cave. Inside, he sheltered from the rain and fell asleep against the rocks. At dawn the next day, Emil was woken by the sound of heavy footsteps. He peeked out and saw a massive bear approaching the cave entrance. He knew this bear was his mother, Lana. She had followed his scent all the way here. Although she had mutated into a bear, her consciousness was not fully gone. She only wanted to see her son, to look at him one last time. Then she quietly turned away and left. Emil tried to chase after her, but instead, he wandered deeper into the forest. There, he discovered all kinds of mutants. The walrus woman, the chameleon child. They all lived peacefully together in this hidden paradise. But suddenly, the mutants grew frightened and scattered in every direction. Tear gas canisters rained down, filling the woods with thick smoke. The hunters had discovered this place and launched their raid. The high-frequency sound blared again. All the mutants collapsed in pain. The hunters began capturing them one by one. Emil's mother dashed past him and disappeared deeper into the forest. The chameleon child blended into the tree bark and escaped. Because Emil still looked human, the hunters caught him and took him to the police station for questioning. Francois rushed to the station. He lied, saying Emil was just a mischievous boy who wandered into the woods. The police told Emil to sign a document so he could leave, but Emil had forgotten how to write. The officer gave him another sheet of paper. Yet, Emil's animal instincts took over, and he showed aggression. The officer reached for his gun, but Francois shoved him hard, knocking him out against a cabinet. Francois quickly stamped the paper, and before the other officers noticed, he took Emil away. They had to leave before the police realized anything. On the way, Emil told Francois he had seen Lana in the forest. Francois said nothing, only gave him a look. The two of them walked and talked, laughing and chatting freely. Suddenly, two police cars appeared behind them. Emile knew he was about to be sent to the shelter. He asked his father, "Will you come visit me often?" But Francois answered firmly, "You're not going to the shelter." He wanted to protect his son one last time. From Emile's changes, Francois guessed he would likely become a fox or a wolf. He explained the running speed and survival skills of canines. Then Francois led Emile into the restricted zone, determined to return him to the wild before the police could arrive. Emile ran deep into the forest. Francois watched him go, his eyes filled with tears.